Hey everybody, welcome back to Hanggliding, or if this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Jason and today's video is about doing a sail-off inspection. This one specifically is for a Wills Wing Falcon 4 195 because that's the hang glider that I'm flying right now. But most of these steps are going to apply to the majority of gliders. Things are definitely going to be different, on double surface gliders. And if you go from vendor to vendor, like, Wills Wing versus Moyes versus North Wing, you're gonna have a few different things, right? Different nuts, different bolts, different ways that things connect. So just keep that in mind if you're watching this video and you're flying some other type of glider. There's a few different reasons to do a sell-off inspection. One is they're recommended by the vendor based on a certain amount of flights you've done, or how many hours you've flown, or just time passing by, such as doing an annual sell-off inspection. These are really great to do, but they're also very important to do. There might be something going on under that sail that you don't know, and it could compromise your glider and therefore your safety. So make sure that you actually do your sell-off inspection either at the time interval or, like myself, unfortunately, after a big crash. The way that I'm going to start this video out is by showing you how to get to the manual section on the Wills Wing website, just because I want to be as helpful as I can, and some of you might not know how to find your manual. So we'll guide through that really quickly. And then there are no exact instructions in the sell-off inspection about truing up your battens and making sure that your battens are correct. So I go over that with my batten chart, and I even have to fix one of my battens, so you'll get to see how I repaired that. Next, I'll talk about the brackets that connect my base bar to my Downtubes, because mine got a little bit damaged and I had to do a little bit of repair. So I talk about those as well. That is also not something that comes out of the instruction manual. And then finally, as I go through this, I try to do this as much step by step as I possibly can. However, because my hang glider actually got damaged in a crash, I wasn't able to go through the steps from one all the way through the end in a chronological order. I had to modify it a little bit. So just keep that in mind, and also understand that if you want to follow this video instead of your instruction manual, you can totally do that. You'll get it done and it'll work. But essentially, you start a sell-off inspection by setting up your control frame. I wasn't able to do that because I was missing some parts to connect my Downtubes to my base bar and everything else. After I get the sail completely off and inspect everything and get my new parts back in, I go through the full reassembly procedure as well. Thanks again for stopping by the channel. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You guys know how important that is for a channel and how much it helps promote not only the channel, but hang gliding in general. All right, let's get this started. Okay, so if you want to find your Wills Wing manual for your sell-off inspection, you're just going to want to go to willswing.com. Once you're on the Wills Wing website, then you can go over here and hover over support. You'll see manuals right here. So go ahead and click that, and you can expand this to show everything so that you don't have to flip through all the pages. And here you can see that you got your U2s and T2s and your sport gliders, like everything's right here, all these manuals. So for Falcon 4, it's blended here with Falcon 3, Falcon 3 Tandem, and Falcon 4. So that's where I found my manual. And then you can see it here, and if you want to download it, you can go ahead and download it. But I've already done that, so I won't click it. But that's how you find your Wills Wing hang glider manual. And then inside of it, you'll be able to find your sell-off inspection. And so for my Falcon, you can see right here, it starts with removing the sail from the airframe. And it also has instructions within all of that about if you're going to short pack. There's some additional steps listed in there, and it'll tell you that if you're not short packing, you can ignore those. But that's where we find it. So those are the pages we're going to work out of from on today's video. All right, so we're diving into the manual now. And as I stated, there's nothing in the sail-off instruction section in the manual about your battens. So we are going to go ahead, first of all, and take a look at how to do your battens. I am going to use this Batton chart that came with my hang glider. Hopefully one came with yours. If not, you can get one from the manufacturer, or there's places like Busted Keel that will sometimes have a Batton chart that might work for you. So check them out and make sure you have a Batton chart. All right. This is kind of what it's going to look like. You're going to lay it out on the ground so you can lay your battens on top of it, and make sure that they are in the proper position as the manufacturer made them so that they're gonna work to their best ability for you and your hang glider. This is what it's gonna look like when you have it laid out. I had to put some wood blocks on the side, otherwise it just keeps rolling back up. Reminds me of the 80s and 90s when I used to have posters in my room in high school. So there's good information here on the Batten chart. And that's what it looks like without the battens on it. All right, so I've got my battens out and next to the chart, and I've got them separated into the green and the red battens. For my Wills Wing Falcon 4, I've got green and red labeling on them, and that tells me if they go on the left side or the right side of my hang glider, on the left wing or right wing. An easy way that I remember which one is which: green has 5 letters, red has 3 letters. So there's less letters in red than green. And when you're looking at left and right, there is more letters, 5 of them, in right and 4 letters in left. So the red goes with left because they have the least amount of letters, and green and right have the most amount of letters. So that's one way you can remember it. Everything with flying is a very similar terminology to sailing or boating. So everything can be called like starboard and port as well. And your starboard side is the right side, it has more letters. And the port side is the left side, it has less letters. There's some easy things for you to remember. Another thing I want to just show you is all of my battens are numbered on the tips here of the batten. So that was 6, that's 5, that should be 4, 3, and so on and so forth. So each set is numbered, and that's important because you want to line them up with the numbers on the chart. And the N is for nose, because you have a nose batten as well. Batten number 1 permanently stays in the wing. So here's the elastic tip on it, and you'll find it inside the wingtip, and it's gonna connect to a little notch on the leading edge. And just stacking them up like this, I can already see that there is a problem. If you look at the smallest batten on my red ones, which go on the left side, and my smallest batten there on the green, which goes on the right side, that one looks more uniform with everything else. This one is off. So definitely gonna have a problem with that one, but let's put them on the chart and check them out. All right, so I'm starting out with checking the red tipped battens, and starting from the small, we've got batten number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 being the longest one there. They are all looking pretty good, except for number 2. Okay, and now we're looking at the green tipped battens, which are for the right side. And so again, down here, we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we check them out, and they're lining up really well all the way. So just number 2 of my red tipped batten for the left side, which is very interesting because it was my right wing that hit the ground, and that's the battens I expected would have had a problem. So there we go. Found an issue to correct. All right, so my plan is to use this heat gun to warm up the batten because it's been out in the cold. And so I'm gonna warm it up and try to slowly bend it by hand back into the proper shape. I've got the heat gun to 600 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can see that it's coming along. Just gotta perfect it. That's looking pretty dang close. There's just some small little warping, but this is working great. So I'm gonna call it good right here. You see just tiny little bit right here that could be perfected, but from where this came from, this is looking awesome. All right, here is the nose batten. So it is looking quite well. It's matched up right where it's supposed to be. So you can see the very top line there for the nose batten. And yeah, it was all lined up good, so no problems there. Great news. So these are the brackets that connect my base bar to my down tubes. They connect the round base bar to the light stream down tubes. So what I did is they were scratched from the crash. So I just sanded them a little bit, and that way they're prepared for me to paint them. So here they are before getting painted. And the only other thing is just that little dent there. I don't know how the heck that happened. Something obviously hit that very hard to take out that chunk of metal. But aside from that, they actually look pretty decent, and I don't think that they need to be replaced. So I'll just paint them so they look new again. All right, well, here is my brand new brackets. Just kidding. Here's my repaired brackets. So it worked out pretty good. Just sanding down the scratches with different grades of sandpaper and a little bit of spray paint from Walmart. Just use this flat black and 2 little coats, and they look amazing. So this is part of my down tube that's snapped. And these brackets here, these go into the down tube. And you can see where the wire connects, that little silver metal piece there. This one that's right on top of my thumb is bent. So that's another problem that I have found. Okay, so I have to get this little bracket out of this snapped, broken down tube so that I have it like this and it can go in the new down tube. And there's a little clevis pin right here that comes through and would have a little safety ring on it. Well, this clevis pin is bent, and so I'm worried that this bracket's gonna be bent. But the only way to figure that out is to get the clevis pin out, which is gonna take a little bit of force. And there we go. There's the clevis pin. And it is very slightly bent, only just a little bit bent. So maybe keep that as a spare. Now I can pull out this bracket. There we go. So there we go. Now the bracket is out of the down tube. Now the wires, they go through these little side holes here, the bottom part of the down tube, and they connect in through that bracket right there. So that's how that happens. And that little pin just literally pops right out. It is a hollow little pin. That's what goes through this bracket to hold the wires in through the down tube. So there we go. Now I've got the wires out, and now this thing can finally go in the trash with the rest of it that snapped and broke. One little interesting thing to note on these brackets is you see this one versus this one. This one has this little indentation on the side. So there you go, something to pay attention to. This here is my former down tube on my right side there. So you can see how bad it bent and shredded. The lucky thing is it did exactly what it's designed to do. It saved a lot of the rest of my hang glider, but yeah, that's like $150 plus part right there. All right, well now we're going to talk about the full cell removal process. So you want to go to your manual in the cell removal area. And as you can see, one of the first things that it starts telling us to do is to prepare an unobstructed area. So it suggests 6 feet by 30 feet to account for the wingspan of your glider and everything else. You want to make sure you have a really nice clean area. When we did a sell-off inspection for my buddy Mike, we did it in the grass, which can work fine. The only thing is, if you drop a little tiny nut or bolt or safety ring, you might have a hard time finding it. So keep that in mind. It definitely helps to put down a tarp. If you're gonna do this on concrete, especially rough concrete, you really wanna put down a tarp. You really wanna do that to protect your sail. Okay, that's the most important thing. But the concrete can also scratch up your aluminum and paint and stuff like that. So step one, get yourself a nice big clean area and put a tarp on it. All right, well I have this huge tarp from Harbor Freight, and laid that out. So I have a nice flat area, but also protecting the sail from the abrasiveness of the concrete. All right, now I've got the glider bag and parts and things out here, and I've got some weights around the tarp as well so it doesn't blow away. It's a very nice day today, blue skies, very light winds. Great day to do this outside. All right, so normally here in step one, what you would do is set up your control frame and get your glider set up to where, you know, your base bar or your wheels are on the ground, and it's just like you're setting up your glider and you'd pull the bag off the glider. Now, I am unable to do that because of the condition that my glider was in due to my crash. And so I was unable at this point in doing my sell-off inspection of fully setting up my control frame because I was missing some parts for the down tubes to be set up correctly. However, you can see the very last part of step number one says to remove the hang loops and set them aside. So I can go ahead and do that. Kind of doesn't matter what order you remove the hang loops in, as long as you get them off. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that right now, since I'm not gonna be putting my harness in there or anything. So I'm just gonna remove those. Got my primary and my secondary hang loops. The one with the red on it's my primary, and it's closer to the nose. The one without anything on it, no labeling, no coloring, that one's closer to the aft side of the hang glider. It's also right here against this apex point where the down tubes connect up into the keel along with the Kingpost in that very critical bolt right there. So the backup's closer to there. The primary's right next to it, but close to the nose. My primary also has this extra Velcro that goes around and just kind of gives it some extra security, whereas the backup loop doesn't have the Velcro at all. It's also extremely important to check your tire pressure, all right? This one's good because I can't squeeze it very much. This one's bad because I can squeeze it a lot. So you gotta pump those up. It's also not easy because whoever designed this, well, I don't wanna call them any bad names, but you come up with something. What were you guys thinking? Helps to have a big flathead screwdriver. Take out the little white things in the middle, then you can sort of pry that thing out, and then you got room to get it on your air pump. Once your tire pressure is good, put these little things back in, unless of course you have a different type of tire. This is my brand new control bar, speed bar, base bar. So taking the plastic off of it. And this is why it was important to get my tires ready so they can go on. There we go. Base bar's ready. Now that I've got the tires back on the new base bar, I can get my brand new brackets put back in on the ends so that the down tubes can connect to the base bar. All right, now for mounting these brackets, this is how the base bar is when I'm flying it. So this would be the right side, and I'm putting this screw in through there like that. And then we've got a washer and a nut. Screw goes in, then the washer, and then the nut on both sides. Now the instruction manual from Will's Wing shows everything in standard, but this 8mm box wrench seems to work on this nut. So they also recommend that you use the screwdriver to hold the thing in place, the bolt in place, and then use the wrench to tighten it down so you don't strip the head of any Phillips head bolt. So if all you have is metric, an 8mm, it's gonna be very similar to 5/16. So you can use a socket wrench or a 5/16 inch standard box wrench. There are no torque specifications, so don't underdo it and don't overdo it. And on the other side, put your bolt through, put your washer through, put your nut on, and rinse and repeat. All right, depending on how you attach your speed bar to your down tubes, because there are various kinds. There's the straight base bar, there's the light stream base bar that's round, there's the light stream or slipstream base bar. So there's different kinds. You've got the round down tubes, you've got the light stream down tubes, and all of this of course varies whether you have a Falcon or you have a U2 or a T2C or a Sport 3 or whatever. But a lot of the components are similar. So this is how I attach my base bar, my round base bar, to my light stream down tubes through the bracket and everything, is these types of pins. So you want to check these, make sure they're not warped. I do want to buy new ones, so I've always got spares or extras. I do feel like this one has a very, very slight warp. I don't even know if you can see it. This one here, slightly curved. So I do want to replace that so I have a perfect one, but I do think I'll be okay with this one in the interim. All right, well, I may have just found another issue. So this is the pin that was just slightly warped, and it goes in fine. So you have to push this little thing to make those little balls retract. So I have to push that pin, it goes through, and then it doesn't come out. So that's holding, that's nice and good. However, we come to this side, this bracket, and you can see that in there, there's these little metal rings, right? You see that one right there? Okay, so if I take my pin and I push it in, all good, until a little bit of force comes out, and it just pulled that ring out from the bracket, and that would be bad. We don't want that to happen while we fly. Now I can't pull it out unless I push the button to retract those little balls. And then there's that ring. So that little ring is supposed to stay in there, and it's not. So I'm not a big fan. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this situation. So I may end up having to buy more of these freaking extremely expensive brackets. Mike's over here helping out now. Now I just got to connect these down tubes to the frame part here, because we got to get the control frame set up so we can, step one, set up the glider sort of in its normal setup. And these would normally just always be attached. So you got to have your clevis pin and your safety rings. All right, both the down tubes are now secured back to this bracket with the clevis pins and safety rings. All right, now according to the instruction manual, just got to set up the control frame like normal. So I'm going to plug the base bar into the down tubes, and then we're going to get the glider upright like we're setting it up to go fly. I'm missing something, I can tell already. What am I? Oh, I gotta get those things. All right, so I found another part that I need to replace, a part that's missing. So where the down tube comes here, the nose wire comes through this hole, the rear wire comes through this hole, and then they come into this bracket. And this little tubing, aluminum I'm guessing, this aluminum tubing that holds those wires together, I'm missing that little tubing on that side for that bracket. So I've got to get that replaced. Because I'm missing the knurled sleeve, I cannot assemble the down tubes and side wires. Therefore, I cannot set up the control frame per the instructions in the manual. All right, so how I've mentioned before and will continue to mention, I'm not able to do this in the exact order as the manual. However, we're now moving on to part of step 4. And in step 4, it says spread out the glider bag, lay the glider on its side on the bag, use a 1/2 inch wrench on the keyhole collar and a 7/16 inch wrench on the bolt. Remove the bolt, securing the bottom rear wire and keel pocket sail mount to the rear of the keel. Store the bolt in the tang and reinstall the keyhole collar on the bolt, tightening 1/2 a turn to secure it against becoming lost. So essentially, we're now disconnecting the lower rigging for the rear wires that connect from the keel down to the control frame, okay? And then I'm also going to start working on step 5, which says detach the bottom side wires from the control bar corners. And then it goes on to tell you to replace the bolt in the bracket and the down tube, tighten the nut a 1/2 a turn. And so essentially what we're doing in steps 4 and 5 here next is we are removing the rear wires and the side wires of the lower rigging. All right, when you're disassembling your wires, you want to make sure you label them. So you can either label them both, or you can label one and the other can become pretty obvious what it is. But these are the rear wires that attach to the keel right here by the placard. So that's towards the back, that's towards the nose. And this is how this goes in. So we want to make sure we see this webbing gets attached down below first. It's attached to that bracket there, so that's how it goes back in place. All right, so removing these rear wires here, we've got a 1/2 inch box wrench on the bottom, and we have a 7/16 socket on the head of the bolt up top. Got it?
Yep, got it. Let's just take this off and put this right.
There we go.
So we don't lose that piece on the bottom. But I don't think you want to leave it off.
So we're just putting the nut back on just so we don't lose that piece. There's my placard there, which I updated with my own little label maker. So for the next step, what we're going to do is actually remove the down tubes from where they connect to the keel at the apex point. And so here on the instructions, it says to roll the glider directly onto its back, remove the safety rings and clevis pins that secure the control bar down tubes to the top plugs, and set the control bar assembly aside. So we're going to do all that and then reinstall the clevis pins and safety rings in the control bar down tubes. That's just so that you don't, lose any of the parts. And then the next part, we're going to hold off on that right now while I show you how we remove the brackets from the apex point on the keel. All right, so we're missing a few parts, so we're not going to really set up the full control frame and do all that, but because I need to check these leading edges. But we marked the left down tube, the right down tube, marked left and right on the keel. And what we're going to do now is pull this whole bracket assembly off. So we're going to get this bolt out, this bolt out. On the right down tube, we've got that extra white spacer. I don't know why, but we do. It's the way it's designed. So that's for the right, that is for the left. And we're going to pull out this whole bracket. That way the sail can slide off past this part here. All right, so there are no torque specs. So in order to put these back together correctly, you kind of want to pay attention to how much thread is left there, because these do have some play in them so they can move. So you don't want to crank these back down when you're reassembling these. So pay attention before you pull all this apart about exactly how it's going to be going together. All right, so these are the side wires. This is the left side wire. That's the right side wire. They have these plastic nut cap things on them that just help you make sure that it's all in place. There we go. And that holds what? The crossbar?
Crossbar, and also holds the wire that goes to the Kingpost.
To get this lower rigging off, this lower wire, the side wires, you need a 5/16 here, 7/16 there to hold the bolt. All right, so for now, we've got the lower wire removed. We put the nut back on. All right, so right here's my wires. I've got my nose wires, my lower rigging side wires, and my rear wires. So all that lower rigging. And then we're going to flip the glider over 180, and we're gonna get out the main bolt that goes right through here, through the keel, where the down tubes attach and all of that. Now what we're going to do here next is remove the plastic cap on the top of the Kingpost and take off the wires, all of the upper rigging wires that connect up into the top of the Kingpost. So that's the next step you'll see us do here in the video. All right, so just a regular flathead to get the plastic cap off the top of the Kingpost.
Mine's a Phillips.
Yours is a Phillips?
Yeah.
Well, then whatever your screw is. Mine's a flathead.
Okay, this is the front.
All right.
Okay, this is the front nose wire. Goes to the nose.
Okay, that goes to the nose. This is the right side, left side, and then the rear wire.
The rear wire that hooks to the string. And then this sits on top. This sits on top of this.
Okay.
So this is underneath, and then this goes on top.
All right, so this right side upper wire rigging is coming from the crossbar, and it goes through the sail, and it comes out this little slat right here. And then it goes up and connects to the right side of the king post. And then the left side, same thing, but on the left side. Well, this is just not a very fun day for me. So this is my king post, and yeah, it's effed up. So that's compromised, and that sucks. This whole thing sucks. It's like shredded through there too. This really sucks. I'm sad. I'm crying on the inside. And maybe on the outside, but just not on video. Damn it. Here we go, boys and girls.
You gotta be proud of that. Tell me to hold it. Show this. Look at this. Don't look at me.
You're in the video, Mike. It's a really sad day. This sucks. And we got to remove the nose batten, which I also have to check on the batten chart. Hopefully that's okay. In this next step here, again on step 5, but there's multiple things you're doing from step 5. What we're going to do now is remove the screws that secure the sail at the nose, and then replace those screws into the leading edges. So just putting the screws back into the holes after you've disconnected the sail. And then I've already removed the Velcro ties, so that's done. And then after that, once you get this out, you're going to spread the wings slightly. And if you haven't done it yet, you'll undo the Velcro tabs inside the rear ends of the leading edges. You should have those. They're down there where the webbing attaches to the leading edges. And then you can start to dismount the sail from the rear leading edges by pulling straight on those webbing handles that are built in there as well. All right, so now we're at the nose, and these little screws have to come off. This is where the sail is held on both sides to the nose of the glider. Here's the nose cone cover and all that. So we got the nose batten out. Now these screws come out. They're just a Phillips. After you get them out, just put the screw back in on each side so you just don't lose the screw. Okay, and in this next step, which is number 7, what you're doing really is getting all of the upper rigging wire out of the way so that it does not catch on the sail while you remove the sail. So here it says prop the nose of the glider up on the breakdown storage transport box. They're referring to the box that comes with like a short pack glider. So just put it up on a toolbox or something else that you have. Spread the wings out slightly, not all the way, just a little bit. And then you're going to pull the crossbar sweep wire and the attached top rear wire forward out through the keel pocket. And the keel pocket's just the part of the sail where the keel goes through. Then if there are no alignment stickers installed at the joint between the inboard and outboard crossbars, it tells you to use an indelible marker to mark a line across the splice on the crossbar and indicating left or right on each of the 4 tubes at that junction. You do not have to take apart your leading edges or your crossbars unless you're trying to short pack it. So really all you need to do in this step is clear all of the wires, the upper rigging wires, through the sail so that they're no longer an obstruction for you to remove the sail. This wire that connects up to the nose now has to come out, so we'll just pull that out through there. So it's pretty easy, just literally goes right through this pocket up and out of that hole. This here is a continuation of step number 7. So it's all about just disconnecting the wires of the crossbar that go up and connect as upper rigging wires to the king post. So you're going to want to do that for the left side, the right side, that front nose wire that you just saw, and then the rear wire. So we're just, again, clearing all of the upper rigging wires so they don't interfere with the sail when we pull out the crossbars, which we're about to do. So just follow along with the video and it should make a little bit more sense than the instructions in the manual. Okay, so now what we're doing is this bolt is holding the crossbar. So we just have to remove the nut to get the crossbar disconnected from the bracket. Then we can put the bolt back through and leave the wire on. And leave the wire there.
Okay, there's the bolt.
So we just pulled the nut off. Now we can get that crossbar detached and put the nut back on. So the whole idea is just making sure that we get the crossbar disconnected from the bracket.
And the wire back on there on
the
other side.
The wire's there. So it can just stay like this for now.
Yep.
All right, now that we got the crossbar loose, we have to flip the glider back over. We're getting ready to pull the sail off now. All right, now we've got the glider back on its top. So this is the bottom area. And we're gonna get the crossbars pulled out that way. So we're just feeding out the wires and they're gonna feed, it's these tension wires and everything's gonna feed right through this pocket. There you go. And through that little pocket.
And then we know this goes right back to the keel.
Yep. And there we go. There's the crossbars and those wires attached to it. What's the assessment there on the crossbars?
They look straight.
That is some good effing news.
Look for cracks or dents or whatever.
We'll inspect them a little further, but potentially positive.
They look.
All right, so we wanted to remove the washout tubes. And so I got this one labeled. So we removed that one already.
We're just gonna pull a slack.
Okay, so it's just like a lark's foot that it's attached to the tube there. So just get that undone and then pull out the washout tubes. Boom, like magic. All right, now we're gonna take off the sail. All right, well, here she is in all her beauty and glory without her skirt on. We got the keel and the leading edges here, crossbars here, and of course the sail. And then all the other little parts like the wires and the Velcros and the washout tubes and the tip bags, wing tip bags, hang loops, and then the control frame and the battens all taken apart now. Now we're just gonna fully inspect it for bends and warps and dents and cracks, and please send a prayer that we find no more problems. All right, so since I cannot put it all back together today, we've just got the leading edge, keel, and crossbars going into the glider bag. We're gonna get that out of the way so we can open up the sail and inspect the sail before packing it back up in the glider bag. And then I gotta order parts. All right, well, there's Toothless's skirt. And just kind of swept off all the little grass tumbleweed pieces that were still hanging around. Gonna flip it over, do the same thing on the other side. Checking for any rips, tears, holes. Looking for any of the sewing thread having ripped out or torn, scratches, anything where we need to put cell patch. But aside from that, just gonna clean both sides of it and then fold it up in the glider bag and call it a day. All right, there's the top side. Just swept it off and inspected it and it looks good to go. So I'm gonna fold it up now and put it away until I can get some parts. These are some of the things that I purchased as part of this sell-off inspection. just some Dacron cell tape for repairing my sail. There's enough of that, I think, that I can take care of any little minor damages to my sail for a while. And all of this, the description of where I got all this, part numbers, things like that, will be down below in the description. So check out all that information. And then these are extra parts I got from Dave at Busted Keel. And so these are my new locking pins. I only needed one, but I bought two. Those are the knurled sleeves. These are some of the safety rings and the clevis pins. So the safety rings go on, you know, the small end of the clevis pin. And then I've got some of the little nuts here as well for some of the bolts. So all of that came really quick from Busted Keel. So thanks, Dave. Awesome. All right, I guess I can call this part two, because today I am now reassembling the glider. So got to get all the bag out here and everything. Let's do that real quick. All right, there's the bag. Now I got to get the crossbars and the leading edge and all that other stuff out. Let's do that. All right, and there we go. So I've got the leading edge and the keel, the down tubes, the crossbar, and then I've got my side wires and all the other things up there too. So we're gonna start working on the next steps here. All right, so I've got the sail out here, and the first step is to lay it on its top so that the bottom of it's facing up, and we're gonna get it put into the leading edge and the keel first, and then we will attach the crossbars in through it. All right, the sail is spread open now, so this is the bottom part that we fly under. So where the Kingpost would connect is laying on the ground, right? So the top of it is down, and because they have to slide in through the pockets, we actually have to tuck the wings back in this way. So you're not going to want it fully spread out like this. You're going to want to bring the wings in a little bit. So we're going to do that now. All right, so like this is kind of how you're going to want to start feeding it through, first through the leading edge and the keel. And on the side with the leading edge and keel, you want this little frame connector part up as well. And yep, as you're coming along the keel to your apex point where your control frame is going to connect, you want all that facing up. So everything is essentially upside down. All right, so here's the main nose hole. And if you look on the side, there's these pockets for the Mylar. Don't go down those pockets with the leading edge. You're gonna go into this main hole here, and you need to make sure the keel is gonna come on top, and it's gonna go through those keel pockets there where it kind of hangs through. This keel has to go through this little pocket and then this little pocket as well, while the leading edges are going on their proper side. So we're still fishing it through. All right, so now we've got the leading edge and the keel through, and we've got the nose wire still hanging off. We're gonna get to that in a little bit. We've got the keel going through here with the apex point right in the middle of those two channel pockets there. And then as you come along the side in these little holes, there's our leading edge. So we can see it on through both sides. So we're about there. All right, so now what we're gonna do is reattach the sail with these little clips into those screws. And hopefully you re-put those screws back into your leading edge so you didn't lose them. And so all we have to do now is pull the screw out, pull this forward, cinch that in with the screws. All right, before we attach those little side pieces, we're gonna run the nose wire through, and you don't tuck it into the nose batten pocket. I almost did that, so make sure you don't do that. It's just gonna come through and come out that hole right there. There we go. There's our nose wire. Okay, now we can attach these suckers. That is now screwed back in on both sides. All right, so now we're gonna just spread it out a little bit so that we can get the crossbars into their position. Okay, so what we're gonna do is feed the crossbars in now. They don't go into a pocket or anything, so you just gotta make sure you have the right and left in the correct order, and one's gonna lead this way, the other's gonna lead that way under the keel there. So that's the next step. So we've got the crossbars in now under the keel there, and they've got a wire on the back side of each of them, and then they've got all the hull back lines right here that are gonna feed through those pockets with the keel to go connect back there. Okay, the haul back lines are now going through, and so this is the bottom, this is the top. So they're going along the top through both of those pockets, and they come out back here. All right, so just to get this positioned more properly through that hole, we actually did go ahead and undo those screws, and we'll get those back on in a second, but that just allows us to get the leading edge where we need to so we can attach the crossbars to the leading edge. All right, so you just want to take your wire from your crossbar and you want to put it under the leading edge. If you put it over, you'll end up with problems. So it's got to go under that leading edge, and then it comes around and pops out of the sail right there through that little slat. And then that'll go connect to the king post. So that's part of the upper rigging that's connected to your crossbars. And you'll do that on both sides. Money, just like that. In the hole is the leading edge, and then this is the crossbar. And the wire that you see here that goes through the hole, that is upper rigging. And we also want to get the lower sidewire rigging that's going to attach here. And then that's going to go connect to the control frame. So we're going to get the bolt out. I already took the nut off. And we're going to make sure we have upper and lower rigging connected back here, and then put the nut back on the bolt. Okay, so this is the crossbar connecting to the leading edge, and we've got the upper rigging wire down here where my fingers are sandwiched, and then this one is the lower side wire for the left side right here. So we're just going to put the nut on there, and then that is all set up. So that's a 7/16 box wrench holding the bolt, and a 5/16 socket wrench to get the nut back on. All right, and then final step, you just want to put the little plastic nut cap back on there as well. All right, now we're just doing the other side. And the interesting thing about these nuts is because they have that kind of locking plastic stuff inside of them, you feel like you have to cinch them a lot longer than you would think, but trust the process. You're going to tighten those down all the way and then slowly loosen it until you can kind of just lightly wiggle this wire back and forth. And that's essentially the torque spec that they give you. All right, so just reattach those, the sail with the screws there and there. So that is put back together now. You can see the crossbars here under the keel with the haul back lines going through the pocket. The crossbar here attaching to the leading edge through that little hole. And we've got the lower rigging wires. These brackets will attach to the down tubes for the left and right. And then the other wires that come up for the upper rigging that will attach to the king post once we can flip the glider back over. Next steps are going to be attaching the webbing that will be here on this end. And you should have some sort of similar webbing strap like this that will attach through here, and you can use a flathead screwdriver to pry that through. It's got one Velcro to put around the bar. Yeah, there's a Velcro there as well to secure it. So the washout tube is just going to be attached by doing a quick little lark's foot of a knot. So it essentially just wraps through itself. So the washout tube is reconnected with that lark's foot knot there. And now we're going to get the webbing on the end. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you and say it's the easiest thing, but if you have a really big flathead screwdriver like this, it helps to be able to pry it through. So the way my glider is designed is I have this little strap to kind of pull with your hand, and that sort of helps, but not really. The biggest trick is getting the screwdriver through this webbing that lays actually in that notch of the leading edge there. And then probably can't even see it, but there's Velcro right in there too that just Velcros around the bar, the leading edge. So there we go, that's what it looks like. Do that on both sides. All right, so as a recap where we're at, we got the leading edges put into the sail. We got the upper rigging put through those slats. We've got the crossbar under the keel and the haulback wires coming through those little pockets. We've got the crossbar attached to the leading edge and the lower wire on each side coming off with those brackets that will attach to the down tubes. We've got the webbing, we've got the washout tubes attached back to the leading edge on both sides with those lark's foots and popping out of that hole there, so the washout tubes are accessible. And then we've got the webbing attached on the ends of the leading edge on both sides. We've got the sail attached up at the nose. So we've got to attach the haulback line stuff here and the sail with this webbing here. This has to reattach to this bolt. And then I believe after that we can flip it over and deal with the king post. The sail will go first. And then these are the lower rear wires that also attach to the base bar, the down tubes, all of that. So this is all lower rigging. So this will connect along with the sail, these two together just like that. So we're gonna go ahead and put those together. All right, so that is now fully reassembled. The bottom part of this bolt right here is the part where when you pull your haulback lines, they connect to. These are the lower rear rigging wires right here. That's what this is. And then the haulback lines will connect to the little piece that's on the bottom of this bolt. We're getting very close to being able to flip the glider. We got to connect the down tubes to their side wires and just get all the lower rigging reconnected to the control frame parts. And then we can flip the glider over, get the king post set on, and connect the wires through the top of the king post and put our battens in and check out our glider. So here we're just reattaching the down tubes to the middle here on the keel. So you can see that here. So we're gonna do both sides. And I am just missing a little aluminum piece that goes through here to hold the wires. So I'm gonna have to finish this in a couple more days, unfortunately. All right, so right now it's in some sort of modified situation because I'm missing one of those hollow tubes that goes in the bracket. Just one little piece is all I'm missing right now, but we're able to set up this control frame. And what we're gonna do now is just kind of roll the glider a little bit so we can get the king post attached and then get all the upper rigging wires attached to the king post. And then once that's done and I get my new little hollow bracket piece, that little hollow tubing for the bracket from Busted Keel this week, I'll just come in and replace that. But we're gonna try to get this done, only missing that little piece, and it should work. We're just holding it in with a clevis pen right now. So one side in here has the hollow tubing, the other side doesn't, but the clevis pin is going through the wires. That's how we're able to kind of have it in this temporary setup right now. Very close to being done with the sail off. Now we're putting the king post together with all the wires here. So there's 4, but because of this thing, there's 5 that go in together. Teamwork.
You can do it. 32 pounds of pressure right there.
Perfect, 32 PSI right there, torqued down appropriately for the king post. Good enough for a king. Boom, baby. Got the luff lines, got the haulback lines. Toothless is almost really, truly 100% back together. Literally just have to redo that bracket on the down tube with the side wires. Well, holy cow, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. It's not flyable yet just because that one part I'm missing from the bracket, but there's Toothless. Got everything there. I'm very excited about this. So a few more days, I can go do my first test flight. Big shout out to Busted Keel and my buddy Mike. And yeah, excited to go fly.